I was literally crying while leaving the country. It was a very difficult decision. I have never wanted to leave Russia, and I do not want to leave Russia now. Yes, if there had been an opportunity to return, I would have returned taking the first flight.
Меня зовут Игорь Kochetkov. Я правозащитник и ЛГБТ-активист.
My name is Igor Kochetkov. I am a human rights defender and LGBT activist from Russia, from St. Petersburg. For the last 20 years of my life, I have been involved in the defense of human rights. I am the founder of the largest LGBT organization in Russia, the Russian LGBT Network. My colleagues and I tried to convince the Russian society and the state that human rights are equal for everyone, both gays, lesbians, and heterosexuals.
Как и других правозащитников, но ЛГБТ-активистов, ЛГБТ-правозащитников особенно.
Initially, LGBT activists, like other human rights defenders, were treated in Russia as some kinds of clowns, who were funded by the West and so on, but there were no serious barriers to fulfill our activities. The state rather ignored us. Since 2020, the LGBT movement has been considered as dangerous, extremist, aimed at destroying the foundations of decency and public morality, seeking to destroy the framework of the Russian state. In 2021, 2 times in 1 month, I was declared a foreign agent. I could not, for instance, freely publish or speak in social media about topics that I considered important. This meant failure to continue my human rights activities in Russia, so I had to leave. Now, I cannot go back to Russia for several reasons.
Причина, по которой я и мои коллеги стали сильно раздражать российские власти, случилась в 2017 году, когда в Чечне.
The second reason why my colleagues and I became a serious problem for the Russian authorities was the situation in 2017, when Chechnya saw high levels of persecution of LGBT people. They were kidnapped, killed. From the very beginning, the organization that I lead was involved in rescuing victims. We contacted the victims, took them out of Chechnya. Moreover, we informed Russia and the whole world about what was happening. I personally openly accused the Chechen leadership of organizing kidnappings and murders of people. My colleagues and I openly claimed that the federal Russian authorities not only failed to investigate these crimes, but they are aware about them being committed. I received death threats from Chechnya.
Касается угроз физической расправы, но они были всегда.
Threats of physical violence have always been experienced. I have been involved in human rights activities for 20 years. So, not only have I been threatened, I have been physically attacked. It was perceived as a part of professional expenditures, as they say. Well, we are all going to die. The question is how and when. If it were only about my physical safety, I could stay in Russia. I could cease my activities and start growing flowers or find some completely peaceful, harmless job. For me, the issue of safety is more of a subject of my freedom. It is important to say what I think is necessary to voice, what can help other people. For me, this is equal to physical survival. A person lives because he or she can speak and think freely.
В 23 году ЛГБТ-движение в России было признано экстремистской организацией.
In 2023, the LGBT movement in Russia was recognized as an extremist organization. For them, the LGBT movement is something they cannot control. These are people, these are organizations that openly oppose the ideology which the state is trying to impose on the entire society. And this movement is completely independent of the state, both financially and organizationally. I think during the last 20 years, the Russian LGBT movement has been the most successful element of the civil society in Russia. During this period, we have reached a situation where 65% of young Russians, people aged 18 to 30, believe that LGBT people have the same rights as everyone else.
Я историк, я кандидат исторических наук.
I am a historian, a doctor of historical sciences, and for many years I was teaching social sciences, history, sociology, political science. First at school, then at universities, and I was engaged in studies of the history of Soviet Russia. Once, when I was still teaching, a student graded D on an exam wrote a complaint to the dean's office, claiming that the teacher had been unfair because he had favored girls and had asked them easier questions. I was called to the dean's office and asked to provide an explanation. What explanation could I provide for such an idiotic complaint? I said that if they wanted, I could write that I was gay, so there would be no doubt. That was my only coming out at work, but of course, everyone thought I was joking.
Естественно, что у меня были и там период отрицания, и...
Certainly, there were periods of denial, and at one point, for a very short time, I secreted my sexual orientation, even for myself. But, interestingly, accepting my sexual orientation came quite late. And perhaps, because it happened later, it was easier. I was already an adult, an independent person, not dependent on my parents anymore.
Идеальным местом, в котором я мог бы оказаться сейчас, был бы Петербург.
The ideal place for me to be right now would be St. Petersburg, my hometown. But since it is impossible, Vilnius is the city I want to live in. The first thing I felt when I came here in 2021 was peace and quietness. It is a very diverse city. It is a city of many cultures. It is multicultural, multilingual. I have never encountered any manifestation of xenophobia here. And I know that Lithuania is a fairly conservative country, also, for instance, concerning LGBT. But, again, I call it healthy conservatism. Healthy conservatism when you can disagree with what other people do, what they say, but nevertheless you do not attack them. You understand that they can say that. And this is why I like Lithuania. I like Vilnius for its peace, dignity, and readiness to accept other people, even if we do not comprehend something, even if these people seem strange to us.
Я считаю себя частью и правозащитного, и демократического движения.
I consider myself as a part of the human rights and democracy movement. My main purpose of current existence is to be useful to that movement. To be useful as well to people who are now in Russia, who may have left Russia, but remain Russians. And to do everything in my power to change the current situation. Everything that is happening now is very reminiscent of the last convulsions of the Soviet power, when they are desperately trying to keep power at all costs, adopting completely senseless regulations, conducting a terrible, reasonless war. This is the last-stage effort. It is a sign of despair, because they can no longer maintain control over the society without frightening it. The government in Russia remains Soviet in terms of mentality, while the society is rapidly changing. That is why I believe that I will be able to return to Russia quite soon.
Вернуться в Россию довольно скоро.